I'm Yvonne Okwara Matola this Monday evening. Good evening and thank you for joining us on The Big Story tonight. Civil activist Okiya Omtatah has filed a petition challenging the newly created post of Chief Administrative Secretaries who will be serving under Cabinet Secretaries. Okiya also wants the National Assembly stopped from vetting the principal secretaries since they were nominated by the President without recommendation from the Public Service Commission as provided for in the Constitution. Another prayer that Okiya is seeking from the court is that the National Assembly be compelled to vet all Cabinet Secretaries, including the ones who were retained or have been moved to another docket. And as Okiya launches his suit, President Uhuru Kenyatta, through the head of Public Service, Joseph Kenywa, has forwarded a list of 9 cabinet secretaries, 7 principal secretaries, and 7 ambassadorial nominees to Parliament for vetting and approval. A clear indication that current CSs and PSs who have been retained will not be subjected to the vetting process. Tonight, I shall delve deeper into this confusion to bring out the whole story around President Kenyatta's nominees and particularly the creation of that new post. So, let's get some context. Why exactly did President Uhuru Kenyatta come up with the position of Chief Administrative Secretary that has caused so much acrimony? He explains.
For the efficient operation of government, and indeed taking into account the need of having a government that reflects the diversity of our nation, and indeed one that can help me deliver on my mandate and pledge to Kenyans over the campaign period. And also, having consulted the constitutionally mandated body and receiving advice from the Public Service Commission, as required by Article 132, 4A of our Constitution, I have decided to establish a new position in government, the position of Chief Administrative Secretary in all our ministries.
On the show tonight, I have with me lawyer Steve Ogola and Suba Churchill of Uraia. The petitioner, Okiya Omtatah Okoiti, will be joining the show from Busia by way of phone with more details as to why he's gone to court this time. But before that, let me take you through some excerpts of that petition that was filed in court earlier today. He has listed 4 respondents in this petition before the courts today. The first respondent, obviously, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta. The second respondent, the Public Service Commission. The Attorney General, who is the third respondent, and the Speaker of the National Assembly, where this vetting will take place, as the 4th respondent. Now, I just want to take a look at some of a few facts from the petition. Now, in the statement, the first respondent also announced, this is according to the petitioner Okiya Omtatah, that having consulted the constitutional mandated body and receiving advice from the PSC as required in the Constitution, that President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to establish the new position in government in all ministries. Also mentioned in the petition is that Okiya Omtatah is aggrieved that cabinet secretaries who are not transferable from one term to the other must be vetted afresh by the government, by the National Assembly, excuse me. And he is also aggrieved that at the time when the country's ballooning wage bill is a matter of grave concern, that there has been no consideration as to the costs of running this new office. So let's take a look at the prayers by Okiya Omtatah in this petition that he has filed today. First, he wants a declaration that the President and the PSC violated the Constitution in the creation of the position of CAS in all ministries. He also wants a declaration that the decision by the President to handpick and nominate persons to PS positions without their being identified and recommended by the PSC and without being vetted by Parliament is null and void. He also wants the appointment by the President of CASs without the PSC's involvement to be declared null and void ab initio, legal terms that we are now very familiar with in this country following the Supreme Court petition. And he also wants a declaration by the court that cabinet secretaries are not transferable from one presidential term to another. So what orders is he seeking from the court? To quash the position of the chief administrative secretary in all government ministries. And he wants to prohibit the Speaker of the National Assembly from causing the National Assembly to receive and consider any vetting of those names that have been appointed. This goes on. So these are just some of the highlights from Okiya Omtatah's petition before the courts today. He filed that earlier this morning. And this is what the court will be hearing. They will be determining these questions that Okiya Omtatah has put before them. So let's now hear from the man behind this suit, Okiya Omtatah, who was on the line from Busia. I understand that call has dropped, but we will get him in just a moment to set the stage for us and perhaps give us some understanding as to why he has gone to court this time. But my guest tonight, Suba Churchill from Uraiya, and Steve Ogola, who is a lawyer. I suppose I would like to begin with you, Suba Churchill, on this position. What do you understand this position to be? Some have said that this is a return to the position of assistant minister, which was done away with in the 2010 constitution.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would wish to clarify that I do not speak for Uraiya. I'm here in my capacity as convener of the Civil Society Reference Group. Indeed, at some point, we have worked with Uraiya during the voter education processes, but on this occasion, I do not speak for Uraiya. Having clarified that, I think it is important that we get it right that, one, the president got it all wrong, that in an effort to reward people that perhaps supported his campaigns and re-election, he went out of the constitutional framework and established a position that does not exist. Indeed, if the position was to be conceived to be that of the assistant minister, that position is now held by the principal secretaries. And so it is wrong in law to create a position that has not been advised by the Public Service Commission. You remember the chairperson of the Public Service Commission is herself a beneficiary of the latest appointments, and therefore that raises a lot of questions of public interest, conflict of interest, and therefore that again is a matter that falls within the purview of the Leadership and Integrity Act. You remember that sections 15 all the way to 16 speak to these issues where people are expected to avoid participating in a matter in which they have an interest. And you all remember that one of the people that have benefited from the latest appointments is the immediate chairperson of the Public Service Commission. So okay. One, I want to agree entirely with Omtatah. In fact, we issued a statement yesterday warning of the prolonged legal battle that will make it difficult for those appointments to be confirmed. Okay. One, on the strength that President Uhuru Kenyatta seems to suggest that only those that have been appointed afresh need to be vetted. All right. We hold the view that everybody, including those that have been serving as cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, must be vetted because a lot of water has passed under the bridge from when they were appointed for the first time. Okay, we will get into greater detail with that, Suba Churchill. Thanks for your view on that. But we promised you that we would speak to Okiya Omtatah, who's on the line, joining us from Busia this evening. Omtatah, thanks for speaking with us on the big story tonight. My first question to you would be, why would you go to court when very clearly the president in his speech and the announcement that he made on Friday last week indicated that he had sought recommendation from the Public Service Commission to form the position of the Chief Administrative Secretary, but you contend otherwise in your suit? Omtatah, can you hear me?
I'm hearing. I'm not getting anything. Hello? 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 Hello?
All right, let me ask you the question again. The president, in his speech on Friday...
I can't hear an echo of one's voice. I can't hear what he's saying.
Okay, all right, let's fix the sound with Okiya Omtatah on phone. We will get to him in just a moment. He claims to be hearing an echo of my voice. I hope that's been sorted.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Great. Okay. So first question. The president said he had sought the required recommendation as per the Constitution from the PSC, informing the position of Chief Administrative Secretary, but you are contending otherwise in your suit filed this morning.
Pardon, I didn't get, just come again?
Okay, let's fix that sound in just a moment. I'd like to speak to Steve Ogola for just a moment. Let's fix the sound issues on that phone line. Steve, from a legal standpoint, your thoughts, let's start first of all with the formation of this position.
Thanks, Yvonne. I'd like to say that Okiya's petition has probable chances, highly likely that he will succeed on 2 grounds. Actually 3. The first one is that it will bring clarity on what it means, you know, for these new CAS positions. Because we have not seen the terms of reference, so we are not able to say with certainty whether this is a state officer or not. But from the law, the Public Service Commission has no role in the appointment of state officers. If they are not state officers, then the Public Service Commission has a role, and Okiya is right. You get? Now, if you look at the Constitution, these can't be assistant cabinet secretaries, they can't be assistant ministers, because the Constitution defines the cabinet to include the president, deputy president, the attorney general, and cabinet secretaries who must be between 18 and 22. There is no room to outmaneuver that constitutional provision that says this is what a cabinet consists of. I think that is Article 252. Now, if you look at Article 234 on the functions of the Public Service Commission, appointment of staff, be they staff at the, at the presidency, state officials, staffers, appointment of anybody who works in the public service, except those people that are specifically designated as state officers. And as state officers, if I would like to invite Yvonne to Article 259, that defines who a state officer is and lists state officers. This new position of chief assistant secretaries is non-existent in the Constitution. It's not listed there. Now, the only opportunity to have this kind of position is under provision paragraph Q that says the president may establish an office, may appoint a state officer to an office established and designated as a state officer by national legislation. So what I'm saying is this: we have not seen any legislation, Yvonne, that gives the president authority to appoint this, to create these new positions. So an analysis of the law leads me to a conclusion, an advanced conclusion, that Okiya Omtatah's petition is highly likely to succeed based on those 3 grounds. Number 1, this is not an assistant cabinet secretary, because that position is not allowed by the Constitution. This is not a state officer, because there's need for legislation. Since this position is not listed as state officers, there's need for a specific legislation. We don't have that legislation. And this is not a public officer. Okay, that is debatable. If they are public officers, then PSC ought to have appointed them. So those 3 reasons, may lead me to believe that the court is likely to find that these officers, these new positions, actually positions in the public service. And if they are positions in the public service, then Public Service Commission misadvised itself in terms of allowing the president to appoint without vetting, without approval or recommendation from PSC. And the way PSC works, the Public Service Commission, you advertise, shortlist, interview, and then nominate for appointment.
So you're saying there's been no evidence of that process having taken place, the advertisements that were put perhaps in, in the press and applications received and that sort of thing. But I'd like to talk about, Suba, with you, the issue of the vetting
Yes.
of all the nominees, because you mentioned that all of the nominees should be vetted afresh, regardless of whether they served previously or not. Well, some postulate differently, quoting Article 152, saying it does not fix any limit to the term of the office of a cabinet secretary once approved for the role by the House.
Yeah, that may be true, but you see, we, as civil society, we argue on the premise that this is a new government. These people, some of those that have been retained or appointed way back in 2013, they have been in office for some time, and the whole purpose of vetting is to, one, assess the competence and suitability. And when we talk about suitability, we go into financial probity, because these are people that have been in public office. For the time that they have served, is there reason to believe that they are still as competent as they were? If they were vetted for a particular ministry and they were found to have been suitable, are they still suitable and competent for the ministries that they have been deployed in? And I think these are very fundamental issues that we cannot ignore. That the whole purpose of vetting of people serving in public office is, one, to assess their competence, two, to assess their suitability for that position, because one may be educated, yes, but maybe not be the most suitable for that office, and, and that is very critical.
All right, so let me ask you this, because there's some that say that, you know, cabinet secretaries are not necessarily vetted to a specific portfolio, but that, you know, their main mandate is that they are technocrats who have skills and qualifications that make them suitable to run a ministry. So it could be any, but, you know, that they have this general set of skills that enable them to sit at that level and determine policy and strategy for the ministry going forward, and that cabinet secretaries are not necessarily approved for very specific portfolios, but just that they can they're suitable for the office of cabinet secretary.
That may be true. That is entirely true, that, you know, they are spokespersons of the respective ministries. But remember, there are moral and ethical issues around vetting. We are saying that these people may be professionally qualified, they may have the capacity, they may be articulate enough to be able to express the policies of the ministry. But when you look at vetting, goes into finer details of financial probity, of ethical and moral standards that people in serving in state offices should meet. And these are the issues that we are saying, look, we have had these people in these ministries. Section 23, for example, of the Leadership and Integrity Act talks about people serving in those positions being politically neutral. We are emerging from a situation where we have had a very protracted electoral process. Some of those that have been promoted or elevated to principal secretary positions, cabinet secretary positions, were the other day dabbling in politics. Is there a reason to believe that they will be neutral enough to serve in those offices without discriminating against any section of this society or individuals on the basis of their political affiliation?
But
and these are the issues that the vetting process would bring out, because the general public also has information about these characters. And it is not enough for the appointing authority, the president for this matter, to say that he has received information from either the intelligence service or the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. There is the requirement that the public participates in these processes, and that is a critical element of the vetting process.
All right, fair enough, fair point there. Let's try and speak to Okiya Omtatah once more, who's joining me on phone from Busia. Can you hear me now?
I hear you loud and clear.
Great. Thanks very much for joining us on phone. So this is the question I had asked to you before. The president says that he got the required recommendations from PSC with respect to the position of Chief Administrative Secretary. You do not believe that, hence your suit. Why?
Well, you have got a constitution which requires public participation, and I agree that under Article 132, Clause 4, the president has got the power to create offices in the public service in consultation with the Public Service Commission. But you have also to look at the Public Service Commission Act. You have got Section, Part 4, and in particular Section 30 as read with Section 27. They are very clear on the procedure of what is supposed to be done before an office is created by the president or even by the Public Service Commission itself. There has been justifications. There has been public participation. Issues of cost have to be addressed. And issues of necessity, why do you, is it a required office or not, have to be addressed. And the president cannot purport to be creating offices in the public service which are political. The public service is supposed to be neutral. It has got nothing to do with politics. And so when the president creates an office in the public service, it must be filled according to the law, which is competitive recruitment. Not just that he wakes up and he says, my friends are going to be dumped into the public service. So whatever happened is that there's an abuse of power. He has the power to create an office, but he has got no power to abuse the power to create an office.
Okay.
And that's why we are offended. All
right. But some would say you are jumping the gun. There seems to be no clarity on this position yet, and the mandate of the office holders.
There's a requirement for clarity. There's a requirement for clarity. Just because that alone should be enough to dismiss it. Why is it being done in the hidden, in the dark? There's a requirement in the Constitution, Article 232, Clause 1. I think Clause 1F. It requires clarity. It requires timely information. We are not being ruled. We are being served. The president is supposed to serve, not to rule us.
So you contend...
The president ruled, ended with Moi.
So you contend that there should have been more clarity with respect to this position and what the role entails before?
The law should have been followed. They should have been announced. They should have informed people that there's an intention to create this office. What do you think about it? These are the reasons why we want to create this office. It is going to cost us so much, and let the people participate in that, and let the process go ahead. You don't ambush people. He's a servant, not a ruler. He's a servant, not a ruler.
All right. The names of these individuals have already been presented to the National Assembly today, and we do understand the Speaker is the fourth respondent in your suit in court. Do you feel like there will be the conflict of interest? We know what Parliament's position has been on the courts, barring National Assembly from essentially carrying out their duty. What do you foresee with that?
No, I think what is happening is that where Parliament acts according to the law, the courts cannot interfere. Where Parliament steps outside the law, the court whips it back into line. And there have been many precedents that have happened. The latest was the case whereby when they wanted to fire the Auditor General, I moved to court and I got orders stopping them from considering that motion. So there are times when the court can intervene, and there are times when the court cannot intervene. And I think this particular time I'm pleading with the court to intervene and uphold the Constitution and the rule of law.
Okay. Okiya Omtatah, thank you.
We are not going to have, you remember that golden statue that was constructed when the Egyptians were moving to Canaan, there was somebody, when Aaron made a golden statue for people to worship. That statue of impunity is what we don't want to worship. We have to bring that statue of impunity down.
All right.
And the rule of law must spring to all the corners of the Republic from Nairobi.
All right, thank you very much. Okiya Omtatah, who's gone to court today seeking to quash the position of the Chief Administrative Secretary that was created by the President last week on Friday. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us on phone from Busia. This is the big story. We continue with our conversation on the debate that this new position has raised. What are your views? Is this, was the president in line with the law, or was this an attempt to reward political cronies from the August 2017 election? The hashtag is the big story. At KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. We're taking a break. But when we return, we have many more questions for Steve Ogola and Suba Churchill, and you can chime in as well. We'll see you after the break.